Russia has introduced a new missile system that could be impossible to defend against.
The brewing war between Russia and Ukraine has resulted in the exploration of different kinds of weapons. Russia, being a powerhouse of sophisticated weapons, has come up with a plan to create one of the fastest and most devastating weapons ever seen. Although yet to be released, this secret weapon has been tested and viewed by experts as a force that could change a lot of things about the war between these countries. This might not be a hyperbole because there are very few hypersonic missiles in the world. Join me as I discuss some of the physics behind this secret weapon and what it could mean for Ukraine. 7th of February. On the 7th of February, there was a missile attack on a building in the capital of Ukraine, leading to a lot of casualties. About 5 people were killed in this attack, which is one of the many sad things that have happened in the brawl between Russia and Ukraine over the last 2 years. Analysis carried out by a team of Ukrainian experts on the remnants of the missile showed that this weapon is the Russian newly developed 3M22 Zircon. However, there are arguments that Russia is yet to fully develop its first Zircon missile, and it is possible that it is a different missile. But what if they were testing it in Ukraine? What if the Zircon missile is close to completion and is ready for use in wars? We will dissect how dangerous the weapon can be and how this might be bad news for countries that want to go to war with Russia. The Zircon hypersonic missile created by Russia is considered to be one of the most formidable weapons ever created. Despite being one of the greatest and strongest countries in warfare, Russia is working to create new weapons that enemies will find impossible to defend. The first discussion about the development of the Zircon missile started back in 2011, and any moment from now, the weapon will be a reality. According to experts, this missile is about 8 to 10 meters long and has a mass ranging from 300 to 400 kilograms, which is really small compared to other missiles like the DF-17. But the size doesn't tell the whole story, because it's even more destructive than the bigger missiles that have been created. Zircon has a range of 1,000 kilometers, and because of its crazy speed, it could cover a very far distance within a short period. The biggest strength of this weapon, which could be a problem for regions on the receiving side of this missile, is its ability not to be easily detectable by the enemy's defense system. This imperceptible property of Zircon makes it a really dangerous weapon for Ukraine, who are not even up to par with Russia in the aspect of warfare. Now, what do we know about this missile? Hypersonic speed. The Zircon missile travels at an insane speed of Mach 9, which means it is about 9 times faster than the speed of sound. To grasp the speed of this missile, the Tomahawk missile, carried by the U.S. Navy, travels at a speed of Mach 0.75. Now, what's the significance of this speed? The Zircon missile can be used to attack ships or land targets with little or no time for the enemy to defend themselves. Because of how fast the missile is traveling, the enemies have very little time for them to detect it coming in their direction. Want to know how hopeless it is to defend against this missile? Imagine firing the weapon to a U.S. Navy on sea with the Aegis combat system. It would take about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to detect, track, and destroy the missile. And that seems like an impossible thing to do in that time frame. So what will Ukraine do after this weapon has been fully developed? Do they have a backup plan to protect themselves? Well, the chance of Ukraine protecting itself from this advanced weapon is very minute. The speed of the flying missile also comes with another special advantage. Generally, we know the states of matter to be solid, liquid, and gas. But there is a fourth state of matter which is very uncommon, known as the plasma state. Now, when the missile is traveling at that crazily high speed, it sort of heats up the air around it to a very high temperature, creating plasma. This state of matter is made of air that is completely filled with ions bouncing off each other. How is this helpful? When the missile enters the enemy's territory and has heated up around it into the plasma state, it becomes difficult for radar to pick up the dangerous weapon coming at them. The ionized air causes electrical disturbances or interference, affecting the efficiency of radar, so the missile isn't detected at all, even up to the point of hitting the target. This extra physics behind the speed makes the weapon a really scary one. Aside from not having enough time to bring down the weapon, enemies might even have no idea about what is coming to hit them. Just boom, everything is gone within a twinkle of an eye. Now, the speed isn't the only thing that makes the missile a special force. How the missile travels in the air is also a huge factor that contributes to how destructive the weapon can be. Does it travel at high altitudes or does it travel at low altitudes? Well, this is how it works. Zircon can travel at a high altitude of about 100,000 feet. But unlike other ballistic missiles, this hypersonic flying weapon can travel at extremely low altitudes of about 200 feet, which can be a problem for the defenders. When Zircon is initially fired, it travels at the highest altitudes because the air in the upper atmosphere is very thin and easy to cut through. This thin air facilitates the speed of the missile and lets it travel within its range. But as it gets closer to its target, it moves downward and starts to travel at a lower altitude compared to its initial stage. You can just assume that the missile, just by falling into lower altitudes, is trying not to be seen by enemies. So as it travels at lower altitudes with the hypersonic speed, it becomes difficult to be detected by radar. Even when it gets detected by a radar, it becomes too late for the defender to do anything protective. The radar might pick up the signals when the missile is a few seconds from hitting the target, and by this time, there is no hope. Also, these missiles have the ability to change direction when traveling, especially when they are close to the target. Although, just like any other ballistic missile, they travel linearly toward the target. But as it gets close, it begins to move around circles or haphazardly, making it difficult for the defenders to bring it down. What's more surprising is that even with how randomly it moves to protect itself, it never loses sight of the target. Now, because of its speed and how it travels in air, Zircon gives the ship that fires it a very rare advantage. These ships can target their enemies at a safe distance, so there is no need for the ship to wield a special defensive system to get protected. The missiles are fired from the Universal Ship Firing Complex 3S-14 vertical launching system. And on what ships is this launching system operated? They operate on Project 22350 frigates, Yasen-class cruise missile submarines, and Project 20380 corvettes. These ships can fire at a very far distance from the enemy's camp and not really bother about defending themselves, because the enemies might not even know where the attack is coming, and even if a missile is sent, it almost never reaches the ship. The first ship that was used to test Zircon is the Admiral Gorshkov. This ship is armed with the P-800 Onyx and Caliber anti-ship and land attack cruise missiles. When the Zircon project gets completed and the missile is now ready to be used in wars, it is said by experts that the Admiral Gorshkov ship will fire it more powerfully than any other ship on the surface of the Earth. You can easily tell that Admiral Gorshkov fired Zircon at a different momentum when the missile was launched on this ship during testing. It can be expensive. What might look like a disadvantage for Russia in making this missile is the cost of production. Although, you can argue that Russia is an ambitious country and will go the extra mile to have this weapon in excess. But it's not so straightforward. It costs a fortune to make a single hypersonic missile, so there is a limit to how much of the weapon can be produced. But even with this small number, they can be used in combination with other ballistic missiles to attack their enemies. The hypersonic missile can help to attack radars and other important components of NATO's camp that give them strength like aircraft carriers. This initial attack by the Zircon missiles, which will be difficult to stop by the enemies, can destroy the defense system of the camp and will be followed by other ballistic missiles, leaving the enemies helpless. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has led to so many unfortunate events. Ukraine, being the weaker nation, has suffered more consequences in this battle. Russia, on the other hand, is one of the most feared nations in the world, with sophisticated weapons that can cause damage to any country that goes their way. Despite having insane ammunition, they still plan on developing crazy weapons that can cause massive destruction in Ukraine and other countries in NATO. The Zircon project started way back before the recent war, but with the recent testing happening, it is likely that the weapon will be ready before the end of this war. Now, what will be the fate of Ukraine and other countries in NATO, especially when they lack the defense system to protect themselves from this dangerous weapon? Is it possible that Russia never strikes them with this weapon, even when the project is done? You really can't tell with a president like Vladimir Putin, who feels Ukraine shouldn't be an independent country. Also, with the attack that happened on the 7th of February, you will find it difficult to rule out a future attack when the project is done. Can Ukraine and other countries in NATO come up with something and defy the physics of this weapon? Time will tell. Thanks for sticking me all through the program. We will provide you with more updates about the Zircon hypersonic missile as we learn about them. See you next time.